distress announcements, civil society and non-governmental organizations had already been petitioning for an increase in social grants and called for the president to deal with alleged corruption in the distribution of food parcels during the lockdown. One of these organizations is Black Sash. For some more reaction on President Cyril Ramaphosa's plan to address social and financial distress, we're joined now on the line by Lynette Maart. She is the director at Black Sash. Lynette, a very good morning to you. What's Black Sash's response to the initiatives announced by the president to alleviate hunger and distress, but also the big concerns about whether the intended beneficiaries will actually benefit from this announcement?
Well, first of all, we're saying that it's a step in the right direction. And we welcome the 250 rand increase for all grants and the 500 rand increase of the child support grant, because the child support grant in particular is a very low grant. It doesn't necessarily meet even the food requirements of children. And during this time, it's quite a challenge when schools are closed and children had access to other food supplies, and now they are solely dependent on the grant. So we're saying that it's a buffer, not to plunge the 18 million grant beneficiaries into starvation. We also feel very good about the intervention of the temporary COVID social relief distress grant to those with little to no income. But we are arguing that parents who are unemployed, regardless of whether they receive a child support grant, should be benefiting from this provision, because we're dealing with the children, but we're not dealing with the adults. And so we are urging government to increase this grant from 350 rand to 1,000 rand. The current value of a food parcel distributed by the South African Social Security Agency is between 1,000 rand and 1,200 rand. And we're saying that this issue is about structural unemployment in South Africa. The economy of South Africa is not able to absorb all the unemployed in the foreseeable future. And so we really saying that this grant is the beginning of some form of permanent basic income grant for those between the ages of 18 to 59 with no or little income. So we're encouraging government to move towards the progressive realization of social security provisions. What we are, however, concerned about is that, particularly with the COVID-19 grant application, these processes can be very onerous, and it places the administrative burden on potential grant beneficiaries. We're saying that government must have minimal requirements. There must be a document, like an ID document or any other form of documents for refugees and permanent residents and South African citizens. But there are some who don't have any documents like IDs. There's a regulation 11 that must kick in order to make sure that has happened. But SASSA must use the database of other government departments to find that information, so they can go to the Home Affairs Department, the UIF, SARS, NASFAS, all those other databases to gather the data, so and not send grant beneficiaries with this little amount to get supporting documents and send them from pillar to post. We also are saying that there must be a recourse mechanism that is clear, that explains to beneficiaries why they have not been allocated. Then we saw that there's going to be food parcels, about 250 food parcels that will be delivered over 14 days. We are, however, not sure what the criteria or who qualify for these food parcels, and what the delivery system would be, given the challenges that we have faced with the delivery systems up to now and the lack of coordination. We're also very pleased that the Banking Association of South Africa and the commercial banks are waiving fees, the banking fees for grant beneficiaries during this time, and so that grant beneficiaries can receive the full cash value of the grant. And we sincerely hope that this will be a permanent feature going forward. So those are my first comments.
Lynette, please just outline this Regulation 11 that you're talking about, that allows people who don't have documents to also get assistance.
Yeah. What ordinarily happens is that if somebody don't have an ID, they go to a SASSA office, they complete a form that's attached to an affidavit, and they then have that signed by the police, and they can then, on the basis of that, receive assistance and support.
Okay, so people can have that recourse, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But you also highlighted something which many of our viewers have asked about as well, in terms of who qualifies.
Well, at the moment, that is not, you mean the food parcels or the grant?
Well, either way, actually.
Okay. So what we're saying in terms of the new COVID grant, if I can call it that in short, is there's a criteria that we saw that says people who are unemployed. Now, often the unemployed is referred to single people who are unemployed, but there are women who are unemployed. They might just have children, and those children might be on grants, but we are arguing that women who are unemployed, or who have, like domestic workers, who have lost their income now as a result of the pandemic. There are informal workers who are not necessarily on UIF. They can't get those provisions because they're not in formal employment or they've not been registered. There's no criteria for them to join that. So all of those people must be part of this particular grant.
In literally all of his addresses, the president keeps calling for a social compact. How is Black Sash responding to this?
Well, I think the social compact must be defined very clearly. With who is the compact and how will the compact work? And I think that non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations are very keen to come to the party to be part of that compact.
All right, so tonight there's that expectation to hear about the detail of what the president outlined on Tuesday, but also a potential extension to the lockdown. What are your expectations?
Well, I mean, I think if we're trying to deal with this virus and not allowing it to spread, the potential is that there will be probably a further lockdown with some minor changes. But we do want to ask that SASSA, who actually needs, and DSD, who needs to be in the forefront of this, particularly the social relief elements, that their offices be open so that those grant beneficiaries who are unable to get services through the helpline system that they have, which is highly inadequate, that at least those offices be open.
Thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Sure. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Lynette Maart is with Black Sash. You're watching The Agenda. Let's take a break.